Hi everyone, welcome back to Safe Space. My name is Buse, and today I'll be doing a solo episode specifically on a topic that was recommended by two people when I shared a question on Instagram recently, on my personal Instagram. They're very similar, well, two of the answers were very similar topics, so I decided that I could try to combine those two topics into one. And I'll actually mention them really quickly. So one of them was the law of vibration, natural healing, and unknown invisible powers. And the other suggestion was law of attraction and how your energy creates your reality. And also, I'm sure anyone that's watching on YouTube can tell, like, I'm outside, so there might be some wind, there might be some background noise, but hopefully we can get through the video without too much interference with, too much noise or background interruption. So hopefully this topic is a good one, and I thought it would be good to be outside to do it because, power of nature as well. I'll mention all of that in the discussion of the topic, but I'll get into it now. So first off, I'll start by saying that law of vibration and law of attraction are obviously two different things in my opinion, but also I could see how they could be very similar as well. In my, interpretation of it, I could say that, like, what you are, you attract. So for example, if you vibrate at a lower frequency, and I don't know if anyone knows what that means, but I'll try to describe what that means to me. So frequency is the feeling that you carry within yourself, even if it's like not conscious, even if it's like unconsciously, that you think of life a certain way, or you think of like everyday life a certain way. For example, if you're constantly living in fear of like something bad happening, and you're always afraid of the worst scenario or the worst outcome that's going to happen, I would say like that's a lower frequency because you're living in a state of fear or living in a state of worry and doubt. So that obviously is like lower in the frequency of vibration. And then for the law of vibration, connecting it to it, so if you're constantly in that fear or doubt or worry, you're going to naturally attract possibly more negative scenarios and situations into your life, and maybe even people who are more negative in their thought processes as well. And I've seen this play out, for example, for myself as well. So, and I'm gonna keep looking at my notes, so if you see my phone in my hand, that's why too. Because I took notes to help me talk through this, because this is it's not easy to like tie it all together and talk about all the different processes within like law of vibration and like natural healing and things like that. So I'm gonna need my notes for this one. So as I was saying before, with law of vibration, you have to make sure that you look at it not in a very positive way, but in a way that you vibrate at a specific frequency in a more, I'm gonna say positive, but not necessarily more positive, maybe in a more loving or a more higher, let's just say a higher frequency. And you're naturally going to attract more opportunities, more people into your life that vibrate at the same frequency that you are at. So I guess let's just sum up like law of vibration in that way, right? And law of attraction works very similarly, but it's a bit different. It's more not necessarily focused on the frequency that you're at, but like focused on many other aspects of your life, as well as like obviously your frequency and your vibration is a part of it, but your personality and where you are in your life, who you have in your life, what you surround yourself with. So it's a lot more extensive, I would say, than like just law of vibration, because law of vibration is more about energy, I would assume, and law of attraction is more of it's like I said before, what you are, you attract. So let's say so I guess I'm gonna try to explain it this way as well. We are all energy in some way, right? So you will, based on where you are in your life and what you surround yourself with a conscious mindset, you will attract that back into your life. So I guess that's what law of attraction would be. And I hope this makes sense in terms of like the difference between law of attraction and law of vibration, but also like what the similarities are. And right, so law of attraction, and then the question was how your energy creates your reality. So I'll try to like go more into like healing, how your energy creates your reality, and like, you know, how these things play out in your life. So I'll go through my notes one by one. So at first I said what you are, you attract, and I kind of went through law of vibration and law of attraction, and that we are all energy. So yeah, it kind of ties into all of that. And going into natural healing, I would say the most important part of, in my experience, healing mentally, maybe emotionally from the experiences that we have, but maybe physically too, if you have like a physical injury. I'm sure, like, let's say, I'm sure people know that when you have a physical injury, obviously you have to rest that part of your body. If you, like, let's say you broke a bone and you broke your leg, let's say, and I don't know if that made sense, but let's say you broke a bone and you want to now heal as quickly as possible. In order to do that, you have to rest your body, rest yourself, and try to drink water and eat good food so that you can heal pretty quickly, right? And I think we don't think about it this way in general on a day-to-day basis, but when you think about mental and emotional injuries that we have through our relationships and experiences in life, the healing, natural healing part of it comes when you surrender to the pain and the moment and the frustration of it all. I think, in my opinion, without surrendering to the actual experience and the pain of what you're going through, and not necessarily blaming other people, but letting life take its course and not trying to control the situation to the outcome that you want it to be, but letting it play out in a way that, like, you're surrendering control to the situation. And that doesn't mean like let other people control you and let life just like steer you in different ways that you don't want it to go, but at times there will be situations in your life where you don't really have many other choices but to surrender to the moment and to accept whatever it is that you're experiencing and try to make the best of the situation. And I think what happens in those scenarios also is that when you do end up surrendering to the moment and the situation without trying to control the outcome of it, there's a part of you that, I guess, in a way, like, your body knows how to heal itself, whether that's mentally, physically, emotionally. So I would say that once you surrender to the moment, I think that's when your healing starts to begin. So that's been my experience, at least, of especially experiences that I've had within relationships, with family relations, friendships, co-work, like, you know, work relations and stuff like that. So I would just say, you're like, for example, our bodies, I truly believe that our bodies know how to heal itself when we let it heal itself, and that goes for our brain, that goes for like our mental health, I guess you could say, our emotional health. So if you do end up letting your body surrender to the moment, no matter what it is, it ends up healing itself on its own. I mean, yes, you have to kickstart the healing by being conscious of the pain that you're feeling, but the most important part is not trying to control the outcome and surrendering to the moment. And I think another big piece of it is accepting that it's going to take time, and being graceful with yourself, especially with yourself, and then being compassionate with yourself as well. I mean, it takes time. I don't think there's a linear way to heal and one way to go about life in most ways, in most situations, right? There's no one size fits all solution to healing or one-size-fits-all solution to any specific situation in life. And that's true for everything. That's true for like your career path, your family relations. There's no, or even friendships, right? Like no one person is the same as another, no one situation is the same as another. So you can't take one person's healing journey and apply the same thing to yourself. I think it also comes with trying to feel the feelings that you are feeling in that moment, and also taking into consideration that it might take longer than you expected, and giving yourself grace and being compassionate and understanding that, you know, it might, even if you heal from it now, you might at some point relapse back into the feelings that you are feeling, like more of the negative ones, right? And that has happened to me in the past, and I don't think that's why I'm saying there's no one-size-fits-all solution to most experiences in life and like your healing process. But I think in my notes I wrote down that the most important part of it is to surrender to the situation and let the outcome resolve itself, rather than trying to control the situation for a specific outcome that you want. And I guess I can also kind of go more into the invisible powers of like the law of vibration and the law of attraction, and more of like the invisible, intangible powers that we feel but can't really physically see or touch, right? Obviously these, like I said, are not tangible, but that doesn't mean they're not real. So I'll try to go more into my own experiences probably with it, and talk about the importance of not necessarily belief in them, but just knowing that these things they exist in life, and that you may not have control over most of the situations, but at the same time, you have control over yourself. You have control over your process of, you know, going through certain things, and you have control over your reactions and giving yourself grace. So I think it's true when people say control what you can, and disregard, not necessarily disregard, but don't try to control that things that you don't have control over, right? And hopefully this is all making sense, because sometimes I try to like tie together ideas and it's very hard for me to explain them, and I tend to confuse myself trying to tie together like multiple different ideas into one specific explanation of what I'm trying to explain. And I'll try to think of other examples as well as I'm talking through it and going through it, but maybe I'll just talk through like my experiences of things that I've gone through, things that have happened in my life that make me believe and think that these are real, and how it impacts my life. And hopefully that'll be helpful as examples for other people as well. And in terms of how I came to be a true believer in like these laws of nature, I guess you could say the laws of the universe, a few years ago, I think it was more than, I'm trying to think, about 4 years ago at this point, I started, I guess you could say, like my spiritual journey, where I would practically meditate. I think it was around end of 2017 and the beginning of 2018. I started meditating almost like every day, and every day, twice a day, so every morning and every night. It wasn't like it happened all at once where like I was consistently doing this. I think there was one specific moment where I remember, I think I was working that day, and I had come home from work, and I was really tired and super anxious, and I didn't know how to calm my mind, because I tend to have a lot of like anxious thoughts and anxious like feeling, where like my mind is just like going 100 miles per hour. And I remember going outside and laying down in our hammock in the backyard, and that was when I lived at home with my dad at the time. So I went to the backyard and I just laid down, and I remember like pretty much just telling myself like I need to calm my mind down, but I didn't know how. So then I just put a timer on for about 45 minutes to an hour, and I remember like my thoughts were just crazy, and I laid down and for a few minutes I watched the sky, and then I closed my eyes, and then I forced myself to just sit with my thoughts. I think it was about at a 45-minute mark where I realized that I was starting to like fall asleep. But at that moment I also realized my mind had surrendered to the situations that I had no control over. And I think my brain and my body even just got so tired from like the exhaustion of like sitting there with my thoughts for 45 minutes that I just started dozing off into sleep. But after that day is when I truly became like more consistent with my journey of like meditating and taking it more seriously, and realizing that there is more to life than the tangible and the physical external things that we experience. I would say like that was definitely a profound experience for me. And it took a while after that for me to like see some differences within myself, within my belief of like, yes, like your energy is truly powerful in terms of what you attract in life. So if you, for example, walk into a room where you're hunched over, like with your shoulders like in, and you're just kind of like your head is down, you're not looking at anyone, and you're just kind of avoiding eye contact, you're avoiding talking to people, obviously like it kind of communicates that you might be like anxious and maybe low on confidence. And it doesn't have to mean that like you're like that every day, but let's say it's just that day, or even maybe most of the time you're like that. And I'm not saying you, but it's just like a general statement, right? So it's, if in that moment you walk into a room with that energy, the people that you interact with, the people that you talk to will be people that kind of carry themselves in the same way, that have and feel the same energy as you do. And for example, when I had like shifted from being super anxious to then being confident in myself in a way, not necessarily like I changed who I was, I didn't change my physical appearance or anything, but I think I was doing things differently in terms of my approach and my reaction to things. And I realized that I had more control over situations than I thought, based on like how I showed up. And regardless of how uncomfortable or anxious I felt about a specific situation or being around specific people, I told myself that I trust myself in that situation to handle it the best that I can. And I trusted myself that if something or some situation was not serving me, that I would remove myself from the situation, even if it just meant for a moment. And I think that confidence and that like higher vibration of energy comes through really trusting within yourself, trusting yourself to protect yourself and get yourself out of situations that may not be beneficial to you and your energy. And that doesn't mean you have to like leave every situation you're uncomfortable in, or leave every relationship and friendship that you're uncomfortable in. Sometimes it's uncomfortable for specific situations and specific scenarios, but it may not be always uncomfortable to be in a friendship or with someone specifically, or in a relationship or around certain people. But if it's consistent enough where like you feel like your energy is just depleted around specific situations or specific people, either you have to take a hold of your own energy and trust yourself to protect yourself in situations where you have no control over, or you have to, I guess, cut contact with and take yourself out of the situation that you're in. And that's not to say that's easy. It takes time to go through this process. That's why I said in the beginning it's important to be graceful and full of compassion for yourself first, because these things do take time, and it's not a one-size-fits-all type of scenario here. So hopefully this is all making sense, and I can go on and on about my own experiences, but I'll try to maybe explain more on how I have healed certain parts of myself, and understood that like some of these things are like, yes, there are invisible powers that are out of our control and things that happen, but if I constantly thought of negative situations and I was in a negative energy all the time, negative mindset, there was no way for me to attract good opportunities, good energy, good people. I think at the end of the day, I realized that whatever I put out into the universe, I guess you could say, came back to me like tenfold. And it's definitely a process of understanding yourself, accepting a lot of yourself and your past experiences, and surrendering to life's situations and the things that you might have gone through or are still going through. And I'm sure maybe I'll also talk about this in my previous videos, especially the single solo ones. Maybe a lot of people have realized I looked very low mood. I talked like I didn't really have any, I guess, life in me, you could say. I seemed like very distant, very stoic, and just very serious. That's because I think in my self-reflection episode, I also talked about going through like challenging moments, and I always want to create that safe space for not just for myself, but for other people to express themselves, whether it's through the comment section, if someone wants to be a guest, or just reaching out to me directly, even to just share like that I might be helping in some way, or that they just want to share like their process of what they're going through. I think a lot of people don't realize that like all of us are going through very similar situations, and all of us as a collective are healing a lot of parts of our like past, I guess you could say, and the experiences that we have with family, friends, relationships, and the trauma that you might have experienced at a younger age. And nobody really talks about it. I've realized, like with my experiences with other people as well, I try to like bring it up and talk about it, and a lot of people do get either uncomfortable, change the topic, but then there are some people who like want to lean more into it and talk about it, and sometimes they don't have the capacity to talk about it, and that's okay too. But just going back to how in my other solo episodes, and even with the guests that I had on, I was very low mood because I was, I guess in a way, healing parts of myself during that time. I was going through a lot of pain, I guess you could say. I was pretty depressed for a good few months, even longer than a few months, but like the beginning of this year was very rough for me. And I talked about it in one of the other episodes that I did as well, where I mentioned how to get through like challenging moments and challenging times. And one of the things I mentioned in there was like being vulnerable with yourself and being graceful and full of compassion for yourself first, and then with other people. And I think that still holds true for me, because I've realized my experiences and like who I am. Sorry, let me rephrase that. My experiences do change, and where I am in life does change as I evolve and grow, and I move on to different things in my life. But who I am deep down on a soul level does not change. And I think embracing that part of yourself and understanding that you are a person with a specific like personality and temperament, and accepting that yes, there are parts of me that are hurt, and there are parts of me that have been through trauma and pain and frustration through all these relationships that I had in my life. There's still a part of me that's like pure and full of life and joyful and blissful and happy. And that's not to say that's my experience every day. Definitely not. But it's good to accept and be aware of where you are in your life, and not punishing yourself more for like the things that you're feeling, right? And I guess that's all a part of healing. And I share my experience so that it's somewhat helpful for not just one person, but maybe multiple people or other people in general that might be like watching the channel and trying to relate, trying to understand their own situation and their own fear of things in life, and wondering like whether it's ever going to be any different than where they are right now. And like I said, it's all a process. And I think surrendering to the fears and the doubts and the worry and the pain that we have is all there is to healing, at least to take the first step to start the process of healing. And I will also just add here and try to like close out at this point, that no matter what happens in life, I always told myself that I'm not going to become a bitter person, and I'm going to stay as humble as I can and try to understand and relate to other people's situation as much as I can. And I feel for anyone that might be like going through a really rough moment and wondering and thinking if things are ever going to be any better or any different. And it's so cliche to say, but because I experienced it and I went through my process of healing for a while, for the past few months, I will say there is better days coming. There are better days coming, sorry. And it's the belief that makes the better days come, and your view of the world that shapes your future reality, right? And it seems very hard when you're in the pain that you're in to look at your life and think that things are going to change, but you have to think of it that way, right? Otherwise, you're not really starting your process of healing, but you're still in the process of just being in the frustration and the pain, but you're not letting it wash over you and take over you to the point where like you can start your healing process. And that's when you realize that like, yes, you have no control over certain things or what people do, but you have control over yourself, and you have to trust yourself and the process of it all. And it takes time, and I know it. And so I will say I trust in anyone that wants to go through their own healing process and believe that, you know, good things are going to come their way and vibrate in a higher frequency and maybe like attract better things for themselves. You have to believe first. And I know that sounds like, all of this sounds very cliche, but if I didn't go through it myself, I wouldn't really give that as advice. And it takes time, and I guess I feel like I'm repeating myself over and over, but it's just, you have to believe in the process, you have to believe in yourself, and trust that you will get through it and you will get to better days. And just always see the good in people, see the good in yourself first, and then see the good in people, see the good in your opportunities and in your other situations in life. So I hope this was somewhat helpful, and I hope this kind of summed up like what my description or definition of law of vibration and law of attraction were or are. And hopefully like the healing process of like what I went through, my process of understanding and believing that like better things are to come in life, my experiences and me sharing that was helpful in some way. And if anybody has any, you know, comment, they want to share their own experiences, and if you want to reach out directly or just share your own story, or you want to be a guest, please do reach out. And I hope, again, I'll restate this, I hope this was somewhat helpful to anyone watching, and I hope this was a good summary of like what all of the invisible powers are and how they come into play in our own lives. So I will end it here, but if you are watching from YouTube, thank you for tuning in again. And if you could leave a comment as feedback or just to share your own story, please do so. I love seeing and hearing about everyone's experiences and comments on the videos that I put out. And you can like and subscribe to the channel and like the video. And for anyone that's listening on Spotify, thanks for tuning in again. And hopefully I'll see you next time with a great topic again. Bye.